My name is Mike. I write about movies on the internet. It doesn't matter. Anyway, you're here to see Justine Bateman. Here she is. Congratulations.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this is the first time you have watched the movie with movie-going folk. For real.
Yeah, not a film festival, but yeah.
How was that?
It's great. It's great. I love hearing where people laugh, because I think there's a lot of funny. I love when the voice says, "Oh, you're in trouble now," and
right,
you are fucked now. Yeah, it's funny.
I'm curious. Last time I talked to you, you said you wished you had seen this movie when you were 19.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating. What do you mean by that?
Well, years ago, I made a lot of fear-based decisions. Didn't really realize it. I just didn't really feel myself, and I would see other people who were being themselves and seemingly making decisions based on instinct instead of fear. And I was like, wow, do you have to be born that way? And then I realized you could get from being one type of person to the other, and so I was all in. I did whatever it took, and part of it was discovering what are the irrational fears that were serving as anchors for these like worst case scenario decision making fodder. And if I'd seen it at 19, I would have become myself faster. It would have been, because what I wanted to do is give a map, the map that I discovered. I'm sure there's lots of ways to get there, but the map that I discovered to get there. And if I had had that map earlier and not had to figure it out, I could have gotten there faster.
Right. And you said you've had the idea for this movie like over 10 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
We're making fear-based decisions. Did that prevent you from making it earlier? And the last time I asked you that, you laughed in my face. So I don't know why I'm even asking that again. But
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, that was years ago that still, of course, concerns come up and everything, and then I go and I'll journal, get to the root fear of it, because I don't want to live one moment more than I have to in any situation not being myself. But no, it was just a matter of I just wrote a bunch of scripts. I mean, there's a whole other thing for me, like about timing. Like I'd wanted to direct since I was 19, and the timing never felt right. And I knew if I forced it, it'd just be like a pile of stuff, Anyway, so I wrote a bunch of scripts in 2011, and just kind of put them away, and then went to school and got a computer science degree and all bunch of other stuff, and then the timing for directing, I felt that like at 50. I'm 55 now. And I was like, oh my God, great. And I did the 2 shorts and then raised the money for this and just went like that.
You mentioned 19 twice.
Yeah, I know. I just noticed that. I don't know why. Yeah.
So there's no significance to that.
No.
Okay. The whole concept of these voices, this inner monologue. I know people have been telling you, "Oh, are you reading my diary?"
Oh, right.
Right. So it's fascinating. Do you think most people have this, or do you think there's people that don't have it?
I think that's possible. I mean, because this really is like the human condition. We have fears. I mean, we're all genetically results of people who had enough fear to avoid throwing themselves off cliffs and being eaten by animals or whatever, right? So that is part of what gets processed in our heads. But so yes, I just think that's part of us. But but then we get into these irrational fears. Rational fears are, oh, I'm afraid if I throw myself off this cliff that I'll completely, I'll die. I was going to say break some bones, but, you'll die. Yeah. But, irrational fear is, I'm afraid if I wear this shirt to the party, no one will talk to me. And if no one talks to me, then maybe I'll wind up destitute, and then I won't have a job, and then I'll just be out in the street, and then I'll die. So I'm going to change my shirt because I'm afraid I'm going to die. I mean, our brain I don't believe our brain knows the difference between a rational fear and an irrational fear. And a good example is like when you have a dream and you dream your family was killed and you wake up sobbing and you have to tell yourself it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. So I think our system is on the most basic level, just interested in keeping us physically alive. And so, irrational fear, regular fear, it doesn't really, I don't think it really matters to it. So yeah, I think we all have it to some degree, but I think some people hear it more frequently and louder than others. And I can say from experience, it's possible to go from being a person like that to being a person who doesn't hear it that often, like Red or Lila. Wait, I want to say too, that line that Lila says, where she says, well, my parents told me I was great and I just believed them. That's something Jamie Gertz said to me once.
Wait, really?
I don't know if she acts anymore, but the actress and more importantly, the basketball team owner, professional basketball
Atlanta,
team owner, which is so cool.
Wow, I didn't know that was a real line from Jamie Gertz.
I was fascinated with that. I was like, gosh, what a life.
From Less Than Zero.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting that one of the voices that Violet hears is a man's voice.
Yeah.
Explain the significance of that. I assume there's a lot.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest differences for me, one of the things that made the biggest difference for me when I was transitioning from, fear-based life to an instinct-based life was just as an experiment. I thought, well, these negative thoughts I'm having, what if somebody else was saying them to me? What if they weren't my own? Would I take them as seriously? Would I give them as much validity? And so I tried that. I was like, what if somebody else was saying this to me? And then I was able to see those thoughts objectively and see that they were lies. And also to go like, I'm going to go find out. You say if I wear that shirt to the party, no one's going to talk to me. I'm going to go find out. And one of two things I found happened. Most of the time, nothing happened at all. But sometimes, yeah, my worst case fear happened. But then because that worst case fear happened, there was something really magnificent on the other side. And one of the examples is when she's has that fight with her boss. Yeah, she just fucking fired. She's out. She's done. But within while she's saying the things she's saying in the office, she realizes it's while she's saying it, she realizes, oh my God, I really did do everything. I didn't think I did, but now I'm saying it and I'm realizing, holy shit, I never needed you. I thought I needed you and I didn't need you and I never did. But she doesn't know that until she goes through that experience and then she's able to make that phone call. There's lots of times that we get opportunities and we're like, oh no, that's cool. It's not really for me, whatever. And inside you're going like, why can't I just say yes? What's going on? So it was like that for her, but
has that happened to you in the last 5 years or so? Are there things that you're like, oh, why didn't I say yes to that?
Hold that for a second. Okay. I'll say about the guy's voice. So because that helped me so much to think of these thoughts as if somebody else is saying them to me, to get some objectivity, I wanted to give that to the viewer. I mean, I designed everything in the film to make the experience as immersive as possible for the viewer, and that's one of them. So maybe it'll even subliminally click with somebody and say, wow, what if somebody else did say that to me? Would I treat it as seriously, and would I think it was true? Okay, so what's the second question?
Oh no, you mentioned the whole concept of like, oh, can't I just say yes to things? Like, is there an actual example of that, of something?
In my life, okay.
Yeah, your whole life.
In my whole life, I'm trying to think. I mean, sure. Like, there's been times in my past where somebody's invited me somewhere, and I'm like, no, that's okay. I'm cool. I'm staying in that night or whatever. And inside, I'm like, oh my God, yes. Yes. And like, again, like in a dream where you can't talk or something,
Right.
You're just like, things are happening and you're trying to speak. Yeah, I've definitely had periods like that. Not recently, thank God, but, in my past, of course.
So going back to the part where you were like, I wish I'd seen this movie when I'm 19.
Yeah.
Someone who is 19 who sees this movie today, what do you hope they take from this?
I hope that they recognize that all the negative thoughts, every single one of them, without exception, are lies. And that almost always the opposite is true. The opposite. So I said when I was making this film, if I could just get 5 people walking out of the theater realizing that those things are lies and then become more themselves because they're able to reject them, like I will have accomplished the entire purpose of this film. So that's what I hope. I hope everybody can fully become themselves, and I've found that a way to do that is to not make fear-based decisions, to make instinct-based decisions, because I believe we're all born with some really good instincts. And, we're in so many situations where we're like, this doesn't feel right, or this feels right, or, and just, I think sometimes the biggest difference between two people would be one trusts their instincts and another doesn't.
I'm curious, too, because you've said this movie is not autobiographical, but you said it in the entertainment industry. And so people are maybe going to think it is.
Yes, of course. People have said like, "Oh, this is a takedown of Hollywood," and I'm like, "No, I've actually never had situations like that in Hollywood, but I have had situations where I'll think a negative thought about myself, and then it'll come out of somebody's mouth. Like Tom Gaines says these things, or her brother says these things, and my negative thoughts will go, "See, that's confirmation. That's confirmation that this bad way you think about yourself is true." But really, that's a lie. And what the other person is saying is a lie, because they're being attacked by their own negative thoughts. Like she does in the parking lot. Like she wanted to get out of this uncomfortable situation, so she said something bad to somebody else. So to answer your question, I said it in, I wanted her entire surroundings to be aspirational, if you will, right? I wanted to eliminate all the variables that the viewer's negative thoughts could point to and say, and dismiss this and say, oh, well, she thinks poorly of herself because she lives in this bad town, or she has this bad job, or she doesn't really have any friends, or she looks, she's kind of plain looking, or to try and justify it. But I wanted to eliminate all of that and say, no, there's nothing you can look at in her life that justifies this. I mean, sure, she had, I put the mom stuff in there, things like that, so you can see how sometimes your negative thoughts can just be a repetition of some lie you heard when you were young, and now you think it's part of your personality when it's just a lie you've just perpetrated. But yeah, that's why. I wanted to eliminate everything that a viewer's negative thoughts could point to and say, oh, well, that's why she thinks that way. Also, there's something about when we see somebody else going through something, say, I'm going to use something silly, say someone has high blood pressure and they're not doing anything about it, and then one of their favorite celebrities says, I have high blood pressure and I'm dealing with it. Sometimes that makes people go, oh, well, if they're dealing with it, then it's okay if I go ahead and deal with it. You know what I mean? So it's partly that too.
And I do want to take some of your questions, but this is the last one before that. Because you do have other scripts, right? Like, you said that last time. Yeah, I know. What are some of the themes of what you still want to do, like directing wise?
There's one I have that takes place up in heaven, where your value in heaven is not based on your whatever you did on earth, like your good deeds. It's based on how you died. So if you died of cancer, you're like, whatever, man. And we've got so many of those up here. But if you died in a headliner, like, made the front page of the news death, you're a superstar up there. And anyway, it's based on this couple that's really competitive. So it's all about, it's about greed and greed. It's about greed and competitiveness. So I've got another one that's, I wrote a book called Face, about women's faces getting older and why that makes people angry. Oh, thank you. So that's, the format is 47 short stories. So I've taken 14 of those and adapted them for a film. So I'd love to do that one too. There's a bunch of them, but yeah. In fact, my first book, Fame, and then the second book, Face, and then this film is a trio that, where they all kind of, they'll reference each other in a way about just getting out of your own way.
This heaven thing's fascinating. So if you're above the fold, your death is above the fold.
Oh yeah,
you are super famous in heaven.
You're super famous in heaven, and there's different sections of heaven. Okay. So you go to the heaven that you're going to most enjoy, like outdoorsman heaven. Okay. Maybe that's you. Is that you?
No, that is not me. I don't. I like the indoors.
Yeah. Well,
I like plumbing.
He goes to Silver City, where everything is covered in chrome, and there's furs and diamonds, and you just given money, and you can go gamble, and he loves it. And then
I can't wait for that.
And then his girlfriend dies.
Oh, well.
But he's already in heaven.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But does she go to the same one he does?
Well,
we'll have to wait.
She has an even more sensational headlining death. So when she gets up there, what do you think happens?
She gets the better apartment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the competition continues with the two of them. Anyway, yeah, that's a really fun one. I'd love to do that one.
Okay. Do you want to take some of their questions?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, okay. Right there.
Sorry. Hi, this is a great movie. But is there sort of a little bit of a coincidence that she has this love affair when she sort of makes this switch in her thinking? Or is that, you know what I mean, that she falls in love with Red, who's adorable?
Yeah. I mean, not a coincidence. It's one of those things where, well, first of all, there's many times where we can be in a situation, maybe it's a friend or it's a job or it's a potential love interest where you just don't see them that way, and then one day you go, wait a minute, But also he's one of those things, like that job she's offered, that she's like, yeah, no, not that. And then finally you just like let go of the fear and you're like, wait, yeah, that is what I want. It's just one of those things.
Anyone else?
It's also significant that he lives that kind of life, and like she wants to be in that kind of life, But for a lot of people, it's hard to be in a relationship where the other person's available. Does anybody get what I'm saying? The other person is just available, and they love you. And for a lot of people, it's like, no fucking way. Like, you know what I mean? Where like, there's no obstacles, nothing. There's no roadblocks, nothing. This is just like sweet sailing. Like, you just love me completely and you see me completely. Like, that's terrifying for a lot of people. So that's part of why has never gone forward with that too.
Who else has? There you go.
Just building off exactly what you said, is that something that Red noticed? Because Red never made a move until she made a move, and he was always kind of being that good friend. Did you make his character to be able to notice exactly that which she was not doing?
Yeah, he's definitely, I've found that a lot of people who are living like a real instinct-based life and, and confident and stuff, they notice every insecure thing that other people do, And so he loves her. He knows that she's racked with fear and is making fear-based decisions, and he's really just there for her. And, frankly, it's the kind of relationship where if she continued on like that, he'd just be like, listen, you're great, but like, I'm busy tonight. You know what I mean? Where you just go like, he hopes that she'll get it, that she'll want to let go of making fear-based decisions. It's like, he's just hoping for that, and if she doesn't, he'll just move on.
Over here.
Great movie, Justine.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a story that might have happened on the set that was really fun or funny or made some changes to the film as you were shooting it? Any backstories you can tell us?
Yeah, I have a few. I'll tell you one. So Rain Phoenix, you see, was sitting in the car, who's playing Rita when they're sitting outside in the dark. What she said in the beginning and at the end was her ad-libs. So I extended the footage of the scene. I was like, we have to keep that, where she goes, "Dear Red, hurry, asshole, love, Rita." And then she says, "Oh my God, I texted the wrong Red. That guy's gonna kill me." Like that's her ad-libs. So those were great. I do have a funny story about getting that house. I'll severely truncate the story, but that house that's Red's house, West Covina, it's in the city of West Covina, and they had this rule that you could only get a permit for 3 days. So that's 1 day of setup, shoot, and then wrap. I needed it for like 7-8 days. Anyway, long story short, it included a lot of baked goods that I brought to the city council. I had to have a city council meeting and I had to go to the city planner's office and like say, what's this? And the bottom line was, nobody even remembered nobody was working in that office when that rule was put in place, but it happened 20 years prior, and it was because of the film Good Burger. I don't know. I still to this day don't know what happened. Someday I'll find somebody who was the location manager on that film and find out what the fuck happened. You know, why did West Covina? They must have had a city council meeting and said, we are never, ever having a film crew in this town again. But I worked the donuts and baked goods magic on them, thank God, and we got that house because I couldn't find anything else that was as good.
By the way, I love your mask. You look so happy. It's such a delight having you right here with this big smile. Yeah.
Get all your masks from a comic book shop.
Oh, great.
Okay. I think we have time for one more. Okay. Right behind you.
Thank you. What was the logic behind the verbal abuse that she was getting and then the written word that was still also voices in her head?
So you mean like Justin Theroux's voice? Okay. So those are her negative thoughts, right? Always kind of pounding on her. And, you know, for most of us, it's just kind of in the background. We're so used to it. And we brush it off and we go, oh, well, I'm just hard on myself. So that's why I had the violent imagery, because to me it's like, yeah, it feels like maybe a paper cut and you go, oh, I'm just hard on myself. But if you have a paper cut in the same place enough times, it'll create like a gouge. And then a scar, and then you just think that's part of your personality. But it's like, I think it wreaks violence on our psyches to continue to think these negative thoughts. So that's those are negative thoughts, Justin Theroux. And then, you know, the handwriting is just sort of this desperate part of her that just wants to get out of this and has no idea, like, how do I get out of this? And, you know, like to Red, like, things that she would never say, but that she's feeling and thinking. And it's like a prisoner, like writing notes or a hostage or something, and you pushing them up through a high window and just praying and hoping that somebody will find them up on the grass up there and come get you. And then it shifts later on, you know. It's more like, wow, now I'm changing. Things are changing. I feel really raw. This is amazing. And then when that's threatened, saying, I can't go back. I can't, you know, I've got to do whatever I've got to do to keep going forward because I'm not going back to the way I was living. I can't be there. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
We are out of time, but thank you guys so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you so much for coming.
Justine Bateman.
Thank you.